Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining our webinar today. At this session, we will be discussing the U.S. immigration law and visa requirements with a specific focus on non-immigrant visa. My name is Diane Barker, and I am your moderator and host for today's webinar. A little about myself. I am a U.S. immigration consultant and a foreign licensed attorney. I am originally from Guyana and recently migrated to the U.S. I have vast experience in immigration law, both from working at an immigration firm and my personal immigration journey to the U.S. So I am, in a sense, the immigrant experience. I know how complex US immigration can be and have a deep understanding and appreciation for the benefits of US immigration. A little about who we are. At Beyond Borders Immigration Services, we are your one-stop shop for all things immigration. Whether your journey is permanent migration to the US or just visiting. As immigrants, myself and colleagues, we understand the immense challenges that come with the migration journey, having experienced it ourselves. So I am happy to inform you that you have a team of experienced and competent professionals to represent you should you retain us. In addition to assisting you with your paperwork, we also provide comprehensive immigrant integration support for those of you whose journey may be permanent migration to the US. My other colleagues will talk a little more in depth about this service. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I wish to call my colleagues to introduce themselves. I will start with our US licensed immigration attorney, Mr. Obasi, and that will be followed by Ms. Cox. Mr. Obasi, you have the floor.
Good evening, good night, good afternoon, depending on where you are. Thank you, Ms. Barker, and thank you, each and every one of us, each and every one of you for joining us. I believe that this is going to be a very fruitful time trying to examine United States immigration laws and visa requirements. So my name is Agua Obasi. I am a licensed attorney. I have over 24 years post-call experience. I have also been licensed in the United States. I'm licensed in multiple jurisdictions. I am a member of the New York State Bar and also a member of the American Bar Association, Nigerian Bar Association, International Bar Association, most especially the International Bar Association section on immigration. It is an exciting time for me to be sharing this platform because as an immigrant myself, I have undertaken and applied various categories of visas. And so I know the challenging experience it can be for somebody who wants to apply for these programs. So I believe that it's going to be a very interesting and informative period for us today.
Thank you, Mr. Cox. I now request Ms. Cox to introduce herself. We're not hearing you. I think you're on mute.
I apologize. Thank you very much, Ms. Barker. Hello, everyone. I am Rebecca Vieira Cox, and I'm truly excited and honored to be here today. Let me give you a bit about my background. I'm a certified global human resources professional and consultant. And my passion really lies in assisting immigrants to the United States, or helping them to seamlessly integrate into the job market, particularly. What I would like to say about us here at Beyond Borders is that what truly sets us apart is our comprehensive approach. We don't just offer immigrant and non-immigrant visa support, we go beyond that. And when you choose us, what you're doing is you're really choosing a partner, someone who will take it to the next level, right? And helping you. You're really engaging into a partnership with us, and that is to help you to successfully integrate into the United States. So when you think of Beyond Borders, it's not just getting the administrative or paperwork completed. It's really think of us as your partner in the process to successfully integrate into the US, if that is your goal. On a personal level, what really sets my approach apart is not just my professional expertise, but also my personal journey. The one commonality that I have with my colleagues here, or what you would hear, is that we're all immigrants, which means that we intimately understand the complexities of migrating to the US and the nuances. So having been born in Guyana and immigrating to the United States, I have firsthand, experience, and I understand, like I said, the complexities and challenges of transitioning to the United States. Let's be realistic. Leaving your home country to seek a new opportunity can be very exciting. We've all been there. And it's equally overwhelming. And there's no rule book on helping you to navigate the nuances of a new culture, new way of life. So we, have intimate experience with the process, and that's really our domain expertise. Throughout my career, I've really dedicated myself to offering support in areas such as resume writing, interview coaching, and providing empowering strategies that help immigrants really boost their success in securing a job quickly when moving here or even before moving here. So I'm more than just an HR professional. Think of me as your strategic ally and someone who helps to tailor my guidance to your unique career aspirations, whatever they may be. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. But before we get into today's discussion, Ms. Cox, you touched on your qualification and experience. And I am aware that Beyond Borders Immigration Services offers comprehensive immigration integration support for those who may want to migrate to the US permanently. How would your expertise assist them in this journey?
Absolutely, I'm happy to respond to that. So, like I mentioned, our approach goes beyond the administration. We help you, I particularly help you with tailoring your resume. So coming to the US, it's really important that you start the process of being proactive and looking for a new opportunity. Being realistic, you have to obviously ensure that you secure a job to support your livelihood when you move here. And oftentimes what happens is that persons or people wait until they get here to try to figure out the system and start the job search process when they get here. But it's important, like I said, to be proactive with that. You're preparing for a major life-changing move.
Yeah.
And financial stability is very important as part of that process. So where I come in is I help you with the search. I help to tailor your resume. I know in some jurisdictions or countries, we refer to it as the curriculum vitae. Here in the US, the format is very different. And that can be the difference between you landing a job and not landing a job, right? In the United States, technology is really leveraged or used by many major companies to sift through resumes. And sometimes having the right words in that resume can help your resume pass through the system, the applicant tracking system. So those are some strategies, tactics, and techniques that I really work with immigrants on, making sure that their resume is to a standard that is accepted by many recruiters and companies in the US, and making sure that you really accentuate the areas of your experience and your background. Beyond that, I help you with coaching, interview coaching, preparing you for the interview. And that includes everything and how to dress for the interview, commonly asked questions that you can anticipate and how to respond to those questions. And like I said, going through different jargons and lingo that may be foreign to you, but important for you to understand moving to your new country.
Thank you so much. We will now touch on the focus of today's webinar, which is the non-immigrant visa process and the requirements. So we are all aware that a foreign citizen who wishes to enter the United States of America must obtain a visa. I now call on my colleague, Mr. Obasi, to give us an outline on the non-immigrant visa process.
Okay, so what we need to understand, first of all, is that there are over 20 categories of non-immigrant visa. And these categories, what they have in common is the intention to visit the United States temporarily. In a sense, you're not migrating to the United States. You just want to visit for a while and return to your home country. And out of this, I would say the most popular would be the B1, B2, and the F category, which is B1, B2 is commonly called the visitor visa. And the F category is the student's visa. There's another one, which is the vocational training visa, which is the M category visa. Now, like I said, the idea behind these categories of visa is that your intention is not to remain in the United States. You are only visiting. So for the B1, that's where you have the category that speaks to your intention to go and transact some kind of business in the United States. So that would include going to negotiate for a contract. That would include going to settle an estate. That would include going to have a business meeting, a consultation with your colleagues. So that will be covered in the B1 category. Now, the B2 category is the visitor's visa. The visitor's visa, essentially you're going to visit, probably you want to visit a location, you want to visit your relations, your friends, your colleagues, you want to attend an event. So that will be covered in the B2 visa. Now, the F category visa is a student visa. What you're essentially saying is that you have an admission in a United States school. And so you're going to the United States school and you intend to return to your home country. So whether the school is an elementary school, high school, or even university, your intention is to pursue your academic undertaking in the United States and thereafter return to your home country. And when you're talking about the B1, B2 visa, that's when you get into what is the intention of the applicant. What is it that you want to convince the visa officers that would necessitate or allow them to approve your visa? So what you want to look at there is you have to demonstrate strong ties to your home country. That's essentially what they're looking for. They want you to show that you have strong ties to your country. We're going to get a little bit detail. We're going to go into the details of that. But that is the main thing that you want to achieve when you're making an application. You want to show that you have strong ties. And that will be the deciding factor for the visa officers that would determine whether or not they're going to approve your application. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Obasi. So, a question to you. Who can apply for the B1, B2 visa?
Okay, so for the B1, B2 visa, every person that is not a citizen of the United States, if you intend to visit the United States, you are required to apply, except for those countries that enjoy what is called a visa waiver. Now, apart from those countries, if you do not fall into that category, every other person that intends to visit the United States would have to apply for the B1, B2 visa. So it would include people who are going to visit their relations, people who want to visit a museum, people who want to experience maybe the shopping experience in the United States, and so on and so forth. Those are the kind of people, the intention that you have, and the kind of people that will be required to apply for the B1, B2 visa.
Thank you so much, Mr. Obasi. Now that we have established eligibility, we will now touch on the application process. And I now call on Ms. Cox to explain the application process for the B1, B2 visas and give an overview of the required documents for the application process.
Absolutely, happy to do that. I have a wealth of experience and have helped many people seeking the B1, B2 visa, with the entire process. So happy to share an overview of what that looks like. Now, the first step in the process is to complete the DS-160 form. And I will emphasize the importance of really ensuring the accuracy of the information there. It's easy to have anyone complete that form, but administrative errors can definitely derail your success in securing or obtaining that visa. So I often like to emphasize the importance of really working with an expert in completing that form. Sometimes the questions, in my experience, the questions are misinterpreted, and responses offered sometimes are not accurate. So it's first step in the process is really to complete that. But before we do that, here at Beyond Borders, what I say is that we are realistic. We engage in a brief consultation process with anyone who is seeking our services in that area, and we advise them through a series of questions. We advise them on their chances of being successful. So there are a series of questions that we usually ask, and we're very transparent If we don't think that you are a candidate at this point in time, based on the specific information that you've provided, we will let you know that. The next step, once we've completed the DS-160 form, is to pay the visa application fee, and followed by the next step, which is to schedule the interview. And like I said, we take care, it's full turnkey with us. We take care of everything for you. We hold your hands through the entire process. And obviously, we help you to gather the required documents that you may need, such as your passport, passport size photograph, and so forth, to supplement that application. So once we've covered those administrative steps, we take it a step further, where we often offer interview preparation services too, so interview coaching. When you are preparing for the interview, it's important to obviously know how to present yourself, know how to respond to some of the questions that we anticipate you will be asked. Thank you, Ms. Barker.
Thank you so much for that. So the next big step in the process will be, as you touched on, the interview process. After the documentation process is completed, that applicant will now have to go through the interview process. I know during this process, the applicant will have to present their case, a compelling case at that, to the interviewing officer, and establish why they are eligible to receive the visa they are applying for. Based on my personal experience, this session usually lasts 3 to 4 minutes, if not less. I have heard a lot of stories from clients that they presented the interviewing officer with lots of documentation to establish a strong case. But those interviewing officers refused to even look at the document. I'll start with you, Mr. Obasi. How well should an applicant prepare for this critical next step in the process? And what should they expect during the visa interview? How relevant are documents? Would you advise an applicant to walk with their deed, their house deed, their car registration? I remember during my process, I walked with almost everything, and it was not even looked at. So can you advise our viewers on this next big step that they will take in this process, and how well they should be prepared for this?
Okay, well, yes, thank you, Ms. Barker. So what you want to bear in mind is that when you're going for an interview, the visa officer has a few minutes to make a decision. Now, the visa officer is intent on making the right decision. You must remember that these are people who take their job seriously. They want to give them the best of their job. So you must understand that there are boxes that they intend to tick. And the most important one is you must demonstrate that you have the intention to return to your home country. That's the most important thing. While he's going through the process of the interview, what is going through his mind is, are you going to misuse the visa if you're granted an approval? That's what he's going through in his mind. So you must demonstrate that you have strong ties to your home country. Now, we're going to be talking a little bit about how to demonstrate that. But what you have to bear in mind is that as you're going into the interview, the first thing probably that you want to do is ensure that you're there on time. Make sure that you get to the visa or to the embassy on time. So you're not late, so you're not hurrying, so you're not stressed out from coming in late. That's the first thing. Then the second one is to bear in mind that the first question the visa officer is going to ask you is, can I have your passport? That's the first thing that he's going to ask you. Can I have your passport? Now, you must remember that you should not hand over your passport before he even asks. He's going to ask. So what you want to do is wait until he asks that question, can I have your passport? And then you go ahead and ask and hand over the passport. It's always helpful to hand over the passport with a comment so that you're having a conversation with a person. You want to engage the visa officer. You want to look him in the eye. I mean, in a lot of cultures, it is not polite for you to look, have eye contact with somebody in authority. So you will find that most people want to keep their face down and not make eye contact. But you have to remember that the visa officer is coming from the American culture. And in the American culture, if you're not making eye contact with somebody, they believe you're lying. So you want to make eye contact with the visa officer. So as you're handing over, you should make, a comment like, okay, so can I have your passport? Yes, sir, or whatever it is. Have a conversation. Be confident. Be comfortable. Engage. Have a good conversation because you have a tiny window of opportunity of making the right decision. Now, your documentation is important, but not as important as the impression that you convey to the visa officer. Now, the second question that he will probably ask you is, what is the reason why you're going to the United States? Why are you going to the United States? So you have to, in every question that you're being asked, you want to make sure that you're answering completely but concisely. Don't go around the world before you arrive at the information that you want to pass on to the visa officer. You want to make sure that when you're given or when you're asked a question, you give a concise answer, a complete answer. Don't go and start saying, oh, this question that you're asking me, I don't understand it. I don't have the answer. That's the wrong response. Don't ever do that. Don't ever tell the visa officer you don't know where you're going to. You don't know what purpose you're going to the United States for. You don't know the duration that you're going to stay. Any of those responses will immediately trigger a red flag. And then make sure that you are telling a story. There are certain things that helps you buttress the fact that you have strong ties to your home country. For example, when you're going into the interview, it's always useful to have your return ticket. Your return ticket demonstrates that you have the intention to leave the United States. Now, it might not be a return ticket back to your home country, but it should be a return ticket out of the United States. Don't go there with one-way ticket. No, don't do that. I mean, that would be a definite red flag. Another thing that you want to demonstrate is your source of finance. You want to have documents that demonstrate that you have the financial capacity to fund your trip. So you want to have a letter from your employer. You want to have a letter that shows that you have sufficient income in your bank account. A bank statement that shows that you have sufficient funds in your bank account. Such things buttress the fact that you have very strong ties or that you run a business and so on and so forth. But again, in the area of documentation. Don't hand over any document that you're not asked to hand over. If the visa officer is not asking for the document, don't offer it. It would just show that you're nervous, you're agitated, and that will not be good for you. So what you want to do is hold on to your documents, be prepared with your documents, but wait for the visa officer to ask the questions or ask to see those documentation. Like I said, he has a very small window of opportunity to make a decision. He wants to make the right opportunity, decision. Your job is to help him make that decision that will be to your advantage.
Thank you so much for that comprehensive response. Ms. Cox, can you also share some helpful tips on the interview process? And what are some of the common mistakes applicants make during the interview?
Absolutely. I think our colleague, Mr. Obasi, did a very good job at detailing some of the common pitfalls that clients make as part of that process. I know that it can be intimidating. I do want to add to his point about really demonstrating strong ties to your home country and giving some specific examples of what that can entail. It's important to note that, the presumption is made that everyone is an intended immigrant to the United States. So it is your duty to demonstrate before the consular officer that you will be returning to your home country. And some ways that you can demonstrate that is by providing proof or showing that you have stable employment and you have assets that can be in the form of a business or property ownership, that you have strong familial relations that can be, marriage, your parents, your siblings, and so forth that are there, or your spouse, children. So those are some examples, not limited to, obviously, by engaging us, we can help you with a plethora of other examples of what demonstrating strong ties, would entail. But those are some of the common examples that I can give. All right. I really want to reiterate the importance too of lack of confidence. And what I've seen in addition to lack of confidence is inconsistencies with your responses. So it's important to make sure that providing that you've been truthful with the information that you've provided for the completion of that DS-160 form, that your responses are consistent. Because oftentimes some of the questions that are on that form, the interviewer or the consular officer may ask questions that you would have already answered on that form. So it's important to obviously be consistent with your with the information that you're providing and whatever is stated on the form. An example could be, your income, purpose of the visit, who you're visiting in the United States. It's important to have a clear itinerary and understand and know the purpose of your travel and your return date, knowing who you're going to be visiting, and obviously their relationship to you. Right. Another common pitfall or, a mistake to avoid is obviously overemphasizing and, volunteering information that you've not been asked. It definitely seeds desperation, and sometimes that can trigger a red flag to the person who's conducting that interview. So it's important not to volunteer any information or document that you've not been asked for. It's important to answer the questions exactly, be very exact, whatever is asked, respond to that and only that. Do not overshare any information or volunteer information that you've not been asked. Another is, definitely have to say this, is do not provide any false information, because that can result in permanent ban from ever obtaining a visa. Don't forge any documents and do not provide any false documents. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that comprehensive response. We will now touch on the common challenges and solutions. What are some common challenges faced by applicants? And what solution does Beyond Borders Immigration Services have to offer prospective applicants who may want to retain our services? I'll direct this question to Mr. Obasi, followed by Ms. Cox.
Okay, so there are various challenges, because obviously the goal of every application is to have an approval. Now, the challenges will speak to those factors that makes approval either difficult or in some cases almost impossible. So one of the greatest challenges of some clients that we have seen is the fact that they really do not understand what they can or cannot do with a B1, B2 visa. For example, some people would want to get into the US and engage in some form of employment with their B1, B2 visa. That is a red flag. That is something that would immediately cause you to be banned from the United States. You don't want to do that. Any kind of employment, even if it is saying, oh, you know, I'm not being paid for it, I'm volunteering for this position, it is still, you know, something that will earn you a ban. Another thing that is problematic is using your B1, B2 to have your baby in the US. Now, we must remember that under the Fourth Amendment of the United States, 14th Amendment of the United States Constitution, any person that is born, any baby that is born within the borders of the United States has what you call the birthright to become a United States citizen. Now, this is irrespective of where the parents come from. It doesn't matter whether the parents are citizens or not. Once you're born in the United States, the 14th Amendment of the US Constitution protects that right. Now, for a lot of people, they insist that this provision has been abused. And so on the 24th of January, 2020, the then Trump administration implemented a regulation essentially empowering visa officers to refuse any woman that shows that they have the intention to come to the United States with the sole purpose of having a baby. So from the 24th of January 2020, that regulation went into effect. Now, here is the dilemma. 14th Amendment gives you the right, and now there's a regulation stopping you. So how is this navigated? Now, what is happening is that there has been a massive misrepresentation of what is going on. For example, a lot of people say that, well, what that regulation was trying to address was what you call anchor babies. But that is a misconception, because anchor babies speaks about people or mothers who illegally enter the United States, have a baby, and have no intention of returning, mostly from the southern borders. They come into the United States, they have a baby, and they have no intention of returning. But the one that most people engage in is in what is called birth tourism. Birth tourism is different. Birth tourism is that the woman essentially wants to go have their baby in the United States, acquire the citizenship of the United States, and return to their country. And of course, they're coming not illegally, they're coming, with their B1, B2. So you want to look at that because from the 24th of January 2020, once the immigration officer comes to the conclusion that the sole purpose of you going to the United States is for the purpose of having a baby, then the application will be rejected. Now, the immigration officer might not ask every woman if they are pregnant, but if they see anything that triggers that suspicion, for example, if the woman looks pregnant or so on and so forth, they are allowed to explore or interrogate that possibility. And if they find that that is, if they can't conclude that that is the intention of the applicant, then they will reject it. That's one. Then the second one that can be problematic is that you get into the United States and then you go and you commit an offense, whether this offense is fraud, whether you commit a felony, and so on and so forth. So that is problematic because once you do that, you are banned from the United States. And you must remember one important distinction, and that is also the misconception that people have. People think that when you receive your visa at the embassy, that automatically gives you the right to enter the United States. That is wrong. That is not the case. When you receive your visa, it is only an authorization to get to a port of entry. Now, that port of entry could be the border, could be a seaport, could be an airport. It only gives you the authorization to enter and seek approval to enter the United States. Now, the Customs and Border Patrol officers at those ports of entry are the ones that will be responsible of assessing whether or not you're eligible to be authorized to enter the US. So once you get the visa, you must understand that you are still under an obligation to make sure that you do not run foul of what is expected of you. You must know what is expected of you. And another thing is that a lot of people get the visa, it is for 2 years, it is for 3 years, and they think they can just come in and stay for the duration of that visa. Again, that is wrong. When you get a visa, it doesn't matter how long, it is for 10 years, you can only stay 6 months at a time. And even when you stay 6 months at a time, you must understand that if you say the duration of the 6 months, you cannot just go back to your home country and come right back. That will trigger the suspicion that you're either living in the United States or you're working in the United States. However, you talked about solution. However, you must bear in mind that if you have done anything that has made you to be banned from the United States, there is a provision under section 212, subsection 2D of the Immigration and Nationality Act, section 212, subsection 2D of the Immigration and Nationality Act, that allows you to petition to say that, well, I have been banned from the United States, but my situation has changed, and I would want the United States immigration to revisit my case. And we are very experienced in putting down this petition for those who have been banned from the United States, and you believe that there is a reason why your case should be revisited and reconsidered. We will be happy at Beyond Borders Immigration Service to look at your case and see if you fall into that category and prepare the petition on your behalf.
Thank you, Ms. Cox. You want to share your thoughts on the question about the common challenges and solutions that Beyond Borders can give our prospective clients?
Absolutely. And, oftentimes when clients engage, it's because their case is not always straightforward. Sometimes you may have a situation where that visa was previously issued and, they violated some aspect of the immigration law that could include overstaying your time, working while you were here on a tourist non-immigrant visa, and obviously running into some infraction with the law. And now in some cases that may result in revocation and deportation and future visa denials. In extreme cases, permanent inadmissibility for non-immigrant visas. So the cases are, sometimes the clients can have complex cases, and they really reach out to us for our expertise. And it's important to do that, to recognize that if your case is complex, not to necessarily take the advice and opinions of people who are not experts in that area of the law, to really seek out the experts. And that's why we're here. Regardless of your circumstance or your case, whatever you've encountered in the past, we can definitely offer you the expert opinion and advice and what to do. And like my colleague, Mr. Obasi, just mentioned, depending if you've had someone who was previously issued a visa, they had some infraction with the law, they were arrested, not convicted, and voluntarily left the United States, but subsequently tried to reapply, and all future visas were denied, or applications resulted in denial. There are several things that we can do to help you with that. And if it's a situation where you are permanently inadmissible based on the nature of the case, then we will let you know that. If we think that you definitely have a strong case to where we can file a petition or request records, we can provide that service and do all of that on your behalf as well.
Thank you so much. We're now at our questions and answer segment. And I now open the floor for our attendees to ask your questions, and we will try our utmost to answer. So the floor is now open for you to ask any questions as it relates to the discussion, and we will try our best to assist you with the answer and solution. If you're shy to ask it openly, you can maybe type it in the chat. I'll read it out and we'll try to answer as best as we can.
Hello, Obasi. This is Uche Akuneme. Yeah, I'm speaking through my wife's phone. So I heard your comment about the issue of having a baby in the United States of America. So what is the best option? I heard some people say that and apply for medical reasons. If you are going to have a baby, you state it clearly, apply for medical reasons. But from what I understand, the response from the American embassies could be either here or there. They could approve or they could disapprove. But what is the best approach if somebody is coming there to have a baby?
Right. Thank you for that question. So, like I said, it is a delicate balance to, it's a delicate balance to maintain. what you want to look at again is the provisions of the Constitution. There's nothing, technically, there's nothing illegal about going to have your baby in the United States. There's nothing illegal about it. The regulation, the Constitution protects that. But what people are concerned about is those who go there and they do not pay for their medical expenses, or those who enter there illegally and believe that having a baby confers on them some kind of advantage. So again, it will follow the same rule, which is demonstrate that you have strong ties. Do not misrepresent anything. Do not lie about anything. Clearly state your intention. It does not mean that you are totally shut out, but demonstrate a number of things. Demonstrate that, one, you have a hospital that you have engaged in. The hospital is ready to take you in as a patient, and you have paid, or you have sufficient funds to pay for the medical procedure that you're going to have. And remember, even at the point of entry, you cannot misrepresent your intention. That is where a lot of people get it wrong. The problem is just like when the authorities go after a criminal and they say, well, what we're going after you is tax evasion. You know, it's not because of your criminal activities, but we can easily establish that you have evaded tax. It's the same thing. It might be difficult for the authorities to say you have run foul of immigration law in any other aspect, but once you have misrepresented to the immigration officer about any material aspect of your visit, now that puts you in trouble. So I would say the best thing to do will be upfront about it, state clearly what you intend to do, make a strong case for your ability to pay for the service, and ensure that you have sufficient funds to engage in that. And that will be your best bet. I don't know if that helps you.
Yeah, thank you for the clarification. And I have one further comment or a question. The issue of medical bills. So, right. Yeah, I know a friend that had a baby and in US, and then he made the payments. So when he was going for a visa again, and you know, he was advised to take the medical records, but he eventually found out that they didn't ask him that question, because for him to clear himself, you know. So it was when he went the second time that, even though they didn't ask him, he presented the medical record, medical base that he has made for him. So somebody else was telling us that medical issues of medical and payments are confidential, that they might not ask that question directly. So that goes back to the question, earlier comments about maybe if they don't ask you for a document, you don't present it. So, but this seems to be an exception, that maybe they might not have to ask you, but you have to show it because it's necessary to clear that aspect that you assessed that you didn't make payments for the medical services received. I don't know how you think about that.
No, there's absolutely no exception. If they don't ask you for a document, don't present the document, because you're answering a question that has not been asked. If you go for an interview and they have not asked you about the payment of your medical bills, and you immediately submit, I went to the US to have a baby and, have all the medical bills paid. In most cases, that would immediately trigger suspicion because you must understand how officers are just like, they are normal human beings. If you're an attorney, Barrister Uche, you're an attorney, you know that if you have not asked somebody, for example, you have a witness on the stand, and you have not asked the witness about his marital status, and he immediately begins to offer that, and that is not your witness, you're cross-examining, and he immediately begins to offer that. You believe he has an angle. You want to pursue that because you're immediately suspicious. Why is this person trying to stop me from even asking the question? So that is the classical example of being defensive during your interview. You're just being defensive, and it absolutely is going to work against you. You don't want to do that. You want to make sure that when you're going, you don't volunteer any information except the ones that the visa officer has asked you. Answer them completely and concisely. Don't give any other extra information.
Do we have any more questions? Okay, we will now give closing remarks. I'll start with Ms. Cox. Can you give some closing remarks before we conclude today's session?
Absolutely. Well, thank you all again for joining us. And like I said, as part of my introduction, here at Beyond Borders, we are your one-stop shop, as my colleague said, Ms. Barker, to borrow her words. We really are your one-stop shop for all things immigration and beyond. All right. Our goal is, if your intent is to immigrate to the US, then we help you and hold your hands in every step of the journey, not just up to the point of obtaining your legal documentation to migrate permanently, but helping you to integrate into your new home and securing job opportunities. So I definitely want you to think of us as, a group of professionals who really provide you with comprehensive support. And being immigrants ourselves, we've walked the walk and the path, and this is not coming from, a textbook, but this is actual intimate experience with the process. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. Mr. Obasi?
Yes, I want to first of all thank everybody that has invested their time in this discussion. We are indeed grateful to each and every one of you. This is the starting of something exciting. It is always challenging to be going through this process of migrating to a different culture, a different society, a different experience. We have started this in the sense that we have talked about the non-immigrant visa category. In our next session, we'll be looking at the different immigrant visas that you can apply and all the opportunities and programs that you have. So you want to join us also for that. But then wrapping up this session, I just want to say thank you to each and every one of you. It has been a rewarding experience sharing these ideas with you.
I wish to offer my closing remarks too on behalf of the team at Beyond Borders Immigration Services. We want to thank you for taking the time out to be with us. And as my colleague indicated, at the next webinar, which will be maybe in a few days or a couple of weeks, we will be touching on the immigrant visas, which I'm sure a lot of you will be interested in. So on behalf of the team, you have a great evening. We're so happy that you were able to join us. And we look forward to you using our services. We can assure you that we're not only talking the talk, but we have walked this journey and we are competent enough to represent your interests in all things US immigration. Thank you so much on behalf of our team.
Thank you all. This has been amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.